Hi, I'm Whitney Morgan, Hashimoto's coach, gluten-free warrior, and creator of the Thyroid Reboot Method and the Gluten Gauntlet System. And today I want to share a little bit of my personal story with you because I want to talk to you about some advice that came from a very unlikely place that I got a long time ago, and I wish I would have listened. Now, the year was 1997, and I had just been diagnosed with psoriasis. The first autoimmune diagnosis I got. I would eventually get diagnosed with a few more. But this was my first one. And even though I had grown up in a pretty hyper medical family, I'd never heard of psoriasis. And according to my dermatologist, there was no known cause and it was completely incurable. So there I was, 32 years old, a new mom, and I was absolutely miserable. I had red, scaly, itchy patches all over my elbows, my lower arms, all over my knees and down the outside of both of my legs. I felt hideous and unlovable, and I would have given anything for a cure. And this was years before I got into alternative healthcare. And so I was definitely still a traditional medicine groupie. And the only treatment that was offered to me at the time were various topical steroid ointments. So I used them liberally and they took the edge off, but absolutely nothing cleared my skin. And then one day I was at a local health food store and I was talking to the owner about my condition and asking her if there were supplements or things that she knew of that I could take. She suggested that I go and see her colon hydrotherapist because according to this woman, what she thought was happening was that I had a really toxic body and that I had a buildup of toxins, and going to see a colon hydrotherapist would really jumpstart detoxification and ultimately clear out my skin. So she gave me the name of her colon hydrotherapist. And at this point, I was just so miserable, I was willing to try anything. So I went ahead, I gave her a call. I booked 3 sessions with her. And next week, I found myself in her office. So there I was, sitting down in the colon hydrotherapist's office, going over intake forms. And she took one look at my legs and my arms. And she said to me, I think you have a problem with gluten. And I really think you should go see a gastroenterologist and get tested because you might even have celiac disease. Now, she went on to say that even though she thought colonics were a good idea for me and would jumpstart detoxification and would be good for my skin, she didn't think that it was going to clear anything up. She felt very strongly that I needed to go see a GI specialist and to have the appropriate testing. And then she gave me a book on the topic and we went ahead and proceeded with my treatment. So I finished the package with her, my 3 sessions. I never cracked the book open. I completely disregarded her advice because I couldn't even imagine that she was right. I mean, who was this person? She wasn't a medical provider. Who was she to tell me that I had some disease I had never heard of, celiac disease? And, in my mind, I had no problem with gluten. I ate pizza all the time. One of my favorite things to have in the morning with my coffee was a croissant. I never had a bad reaction when I ate these things. I never had any sort of, stomach upset or cramping or diarrhea or anything. So I just completely disregarded her. I thought, okay, well, that's kind of wackadoo. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Okay, so fast forward 13 years and I'm waking up from just having had an endoscopy. And for those of you who don't know, an endoscopy is when they stick a tube down your throat. It's got a little camera mounted on it, and they want to take a look at the inside of your stomach and the upper part of your small intestine. And the reason I was having this done is because I was in school and I was, a really type A student under a lot of stress. And I started having some very sharp stabbing pains in my stomach. And so I thought maybe I had an ulcer. So I went to see a gastroenterologist and he said, okay, let's schedule a scope on you. Let's see if you have an ulcer. He thought I probably did. So there I am waking up from the anesthesia and he's sitting next to me and he looks at me and he says, I can't believe it. I never expected to find it, but I'm 99% sure that you have celiac disease. And then he went on to tell me that, of course, we were going to have to run some blood work just to confirm, but he was pretty certain that I had celiac disease. And I was absolutely floored when he said it. But, it only took a couple of minutes for me to remember the advice of the colon hydrotherapist over a decade earlier, that she had been right. She called it. I had celiac disease. Now, I'm not one to lament over the past or to beat myself up about a lot of shoulda, woulda, couldas, but I can't help but wonder what my life and what my health journey would have been like if I listened to that colon hydrotherapist a decade earlier, if I had gone to see a GI doctor, if I had had that scope then, and maybe gotten a diagnosis then. What would my life have been like had I eliminated gluten from my life at that time? Would I have avoided my Hashimoto's diagnosis years later? Would I have avoided a diagnosis of interstitial cystitis years later? And would my psoriasis have disappeared as quickly as it came? I don't know. I mean, I'll never know. But like I said, I'm not a lamenter, and I've gotten to this place where I'm actually quite grateful for my journey. I'm grateful for every diagnosis that I've received, including my celiac diagnosis, because it's why I'm here today. It's why I do what I do. And without that journey, I wouldn't be here talking to you, and I wouldn't be helping other women with Hashimoto's and other autoimmune diseases avoid years of suffering. What I hope you might take away from my story is to not disregard health advice just because it comes from someone who doesn't have the letters MD after their name. And even if your doctor doesn't believe that there's a connection between your autoimmune disease and what you eat every day, doesn't make them right. And most importantly, just because your doctor tells you that your autoimmune disease is incurable, doesn't make it true. A colon hydrotherapist in 1997 had the wisdom and the knowledge to identify a connection between my psoriasis diagnosis and a gluten issue. A connection that to this day in traditional medicine is not widely recognized. It makes me laugh to think how shocked my gastroenterologist was to discover I had celiac disease when a colon hydrotherapist considered it the most logical conclusion. Now, if you've enjoyed hearing my story and if it's resonated with you at all, please put your favorite emoji in the comments. And just in case you're not familiar with me and what I do, I mainly post educational videos about autoimmune disease, Hashimoto's, and all things related to gluten sensitivity and celiac disease. So if that's your jam, make sure to subscribe to my channel, hit the little bell so you'll get notified when I drop a new video every week. Thanks for watching. And if you have questions, please leave them for me. I do my best to reply to everyone. See you next week.